GM one and all. Welcome to our weekly All Team Tactical. We're going to use this time to sync up on the work that we're doing around the B Foundation, eliminate blockers, and prioritize work for the next week. Just FYI, the call is recorded and clips are shared on social media. If you don't want to be shared, please say so in the meeting. Hey, Winverse, I started Craig, but I will send you the link later because you were not here. So okay, I got the link and I'll send it to you a little bit later. And what we do, we help purpose-driven communities use Web3 tooling to generate revenue and engagement. You may have heard me say B Foundation. I also wanted to share our LinkedIn. I did a little bit of updates yesterday, minimally, but enough that I think it's worth sharing. How can I put this on this screen here? Nope, I have to sign in. That's not what I want. View as a member. Let's see. How do I do this? Oh my God, AWS, is it still super slow?
I think everybody's rebooting their servers everywhere, it feels like.
Yeah, everything's just a little bit slow on the internet right now. So I think if I do this, I can do BCard Foundation. B Foundation, the URL was taken. I'll just do this, but we have B Foundation here. Took me way longer than I care to admit to make this banner. So the banner is made, and it's really leaning into this idea of B Foundation. I think the thing that kind of kicked us off was just the fact that we have like two products that we're like really actively working on right now: BCard and Black Flag Collective. And there's no single place on the web that you can go to and kind of see what all of our projects are. I did get a domain for B Foundation last year, bfoundation.me, I believe it is. And the website that I'm using for Black Flag Collective, it's almost getting good enough to the point where I could create something for B Foundation as well, which would show all of our projects. So Black Flag Collective, BCard, it would show the vault that we've made, it would show Taxman, it would show all of our products and have space for potentially new products in the future, like we talked about an escrow service and these kinds of things. And so that's why I'm kind of like leaning a little bit more to this B Foundation. So I would say it's definitely like a doing business as name, a DBA name, B Foundation. We are still in Panama known as the BCard Foundation. But I think B Foundation lends itself a little bit nicer to branding. Anyways, I just wanted to share that with everyone here, and hopefully that makes sense.
Nice banner.
Yeah, I know, right? Took me too long. But anyways, at least I learned a little bit how to use my open source image editor called Acorn. So if you're looking for an image editor,
anytime you're learning, it's not time wasted, right?
Exactly.
You could probably do some of that stuff in Figma next time if you have access. I mean, you've got access to all the brand stuff. It's worth taking a little time to learn how to use Figma in that sense. I'm pretty sure you're good enough at Figma to do stuff like that, right? And then you just export it as a PNG.
So I don't know Figma that well, and okay. I was saying at the beginning that I'm trying to get away from subscription services, and I know that like Figma has like a free tier, but the reason I started using Acorn was because I found it a little bit more intuitive for myself, and it was just like I mean it is very much single player, right? Like whereas Figma is like multiplayer, but for quick and dirty things like this, I wanted something else, and so that's why I got Acorn, and it did cost me $60, but I'm pretty happy with it so far.
Well, there you go. No subscription required. I'll check it out.
Yeah, and the nice thing is, within a year after I paid the $60, they released a new version of it. They went from Acorn 3 to Acorn 4, and they said, since you bought less than a year ago, you get upgraded for free. And I was just like, see, this is the kind of business that I want to to patronize. Anyways, enough with the with the Acorn love. We'll go down a little bit here. On our lag metric side, we have 847 transaction volume this week, up 720 from the week previous. We have 3 weekly transacting users, 0 new users, and 11 communities deployed. On the team-wide side, don't forget to put what did you ship or post in the what did you ship when you do something for BCard. It doesn't have to be something massive. You can post something on social media about BCard. You can create a little meme about BCard. Can be anything that you do. The intent really is that we're trying to get people to contribute. So even if you just want to contribute 5 minutes, if you want to make a little drawing for an app idea you have, if you want to do if you want to come up with a plan of how we might get more users, literally anything I think is the idea, especially at this early stage. We're really just looking to encourage contribution and yeah, so you can post in the What Did You Ship channel. We do have these standard bounties in case you're looking for something to do. On the milestone perspective side, 10 weekly transacting users. On the support side, so Shelby, you were working on the transaction bug and the snapshot bug. How's this going?
So not that great, because you know what? I can't really test it. So I really, really want to work on this stuff. I don't think I'm the person to do it because I can't
Oh, why can't you test it?
Because I don't have a B card.
Oh, you can test it on staging without a B card. Like you can make it like we are hooked into their staging server, and so when you create an account on staging, it creates this like fake kind of test card. And so you can test everything you want on staging if you use the staging URLs, and those staging URLs are in the Vault Warden group that you're part of. So like if you set the .env with those variables, it should be able to create an account for you.
So set the .env with those variables.
Exactly. Yeah, and I think it should work then. But if you're having trouble, you can reach out to me. I'm a little bit busy today, but tomorrow and Friday I have more time. If you run into trouble, I can try to help debug you.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. I found out about inactive users. So this was a question that you had last week, Richard. So basically, Transcard charges until they hit a zero balance, and then they stop charging. They do not close accounts, so they leave the accounts open. So if a user is kind of like, hey, I want to start using this again, and then they like load up another ACH transfer, they can continue on and continue to do that. And a negative balance on the account does not affect a credit score because it's a debit card. And so they kind of stop charging after it goes to zero, and they don't send that to a credit agency or anything like that. They just leave it. So that's what I've heard from them. Does that kind of answer your questions, Richard?
Yeah, I think that, yeah. So I did see this, but I've been kind of distracted, so I didn't respond to it. I think like I guess the immediate concern that I had with that feedback information was like, what if there's like, because I can't see what balances the cards have on them, but if there's somebody that has like a more significant balance on there that's going to just they've kind of forgotten about it, and the money's going to be trickling down, maybe they should be made aware.
I mean, we're sending them a monthly statement, right? I mean, so Tom, is that automated? Like actually, now that I think about it, I don't think I've gotten a monthly statement in a bit.
I think it's manual. Just takes a button press on the back end. I don't recall the last one I sent though. Maybe August.
Okay. Yeah, maybe can you run one of those, Tom? Because I do want that to happen. Maybe we should just automate that when we have the new dashboard going up. We can just create a cron job on the, well, I guess maybe on the TX API server, but maybe it's better to. Anyways, maybe you and I can discuss what the best way to automate this is.
Yeah, it'll be on the roadmap for sure for the upgrades.
Okay, cool.
Then I had some other thoughts, but they're not really that relevant. But we can maybe discuss them on Friday.
Okay,
and
sounds good.
I'll try to get a response, like teed up on there on Discord.
Yeah. Okay.
And
cool.
yeah, I noticed Discord has now the looks like sounds like they have the Halloween notification sounds.
The sounds are
Oh, really?
back.
Yeah,
I
the
haven't
sounds are back.
I haven't looked at that yet, or I haven't gotten that yet. I feel like I'm always like slightly behind on my Discord upgrade. Like I'm just like, we have 12 updates. It's like, oh, okay. So maybe I should update so I can get those sounds, but I also don't really care for the sounds too much.
I
Cool.
was
So
I was I was kind of like, what is that? After I started up Discord, but then I
that's funny.
remembered what.
Cool. Yes. So I will talk to you about it on Friday for this kind of stuff, the inactive users, and what I'm going to do is quickly add it into Asana. All team projects. I'll put it in the inbox. Automate monthly statement emails. I'll just quickly put in here, success criteria. Monthly statement emails are automatically sent to all users. There. And we will sort with that as we go through it. All right. I also made some small styling changes to transactions. So Shelby, you may want to take it's very small, the changes I made. But you may want to, if you're working on that transaction bug, you may want to pull the latest staging into it. But really, it's just like it's in one small spot, so it should not be. I don't think that you'll see a conflict or anything there.
Okay, thanks.
I do need to test with live transactions. I was only testing with staging transactions, and they don't have the same kind of patterns that the user kind of set for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy some of my live transactions, which I see do have those patterns, put them into staging, and then see what the app gives me, and see if I can style the app to make it a little bit more obvious what each of those transactions are. Originally, we were talking about grouping transactions. But since BCard is not, I would say, our like main focus right now, we wanted to, with the grouping, it's possible to introduce a bug and then we'd have to fix that bug. So we wanted really the tech to be as simple as possible. So what we're gonna do is leave those kind of like quote unquote duplicate transactions in there, but put a little bit more information about what those duplicate transactions actually are. Yeah, so that's kind of the intent right now.
Sorry, just a quick question about those inactivity charges that were noted. Were they in October or were they in September?
So we talked
Or are
about
they
it.
just they're continuous, I guess, at this point.
It happens. Yeah, it happens every month.
But I think the ones that hit were in September.
Okay, I'm just going to fire off
Yeah.
all the statements right now. I was just thinking if they were October only, it would be a bunch of the information wouldn't appear until next month's statement. And so, I'll just send them off for September, and then at the end of the month, we'll do the October ones.
Cool. Sounds good. All right. So Tom, updates to the backend and admin dashboard. Do you want to give an update here?
Yeah, I started looking at some of my old code, and I decided it was no good to keep going. So I decided it was time for a rebuild. So I put a lot of it into the rework queue, and mostly I'm looking at refactoring a lot of the transaction processing server to refocus on its main job of taking in transaction data from Transcard and inserting it into a database, and then returning data out to the app client. So just basically those things. In the intervening time, I kind of overloaded it with a few other things, and we started experiencing, because they're pretty small servers, memory issues. when we were trying to build and run our application. And so in the interest of long-term maintainability and security, we're going to split off the sort of admin dashboard functionality that currently exists on the transaction servers, so that we can read data from the database and we can sort of operate on it as an admin. But we're not going to be impacting the load of that main server, whose job it is to just sit there and look at transactions and sit there and respond to app clients when they phone home. So yeah, that's what I've been working on for a couple of days. There was a lot of stuff that I had to fix, but I think in the long term it's going to be pretty great. It's going to work pretty fast, and I guess this is kind of like our first steps for infrastructure 2.0 that's going to help us have maintainable sort of APIs across all the products.
Yeah, so just to get everyone else on the same page as us, Tom and I have been speaking more about like, hey, if we have multiple products and we have multiple things doing things, it would be nice if we kind of had this this API which is a little bit more chunky, or like had more of those those features that were used in multiple places. So for instance, on Taxman, I did a bunch of caching, which means basically making sure that when we talk to CoinGecko to get prices, we're not asking for historical prices a bunch of times in rapid succession, which would use up all of our API. So we'd end up spending more money, and also it's slower for the user. So I implemented a bunch of caching logic on Taxman. Well, I probably should have just done it in an API, and then now anytime we are requesting token data, we have that functionality for everyone and not just for Taxman. And so, yeah, like the way that we're getting token data for BCard is different than the way that we're getting token data for Taxman. And probably a lot of that functionality, if we just baked it into the API, we could use it onto like thin clients, make everything kind of like a front end site. And so that's exactly what Tom's doing with this dashboard. Maybe not so obvious. I think maybe I got a little bit too technical there, but does that make sense for everyone? It's kind of like centralizing some of the functionality so that we can experiment more freely on our apps.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Cool. All right. On the community pages.
Sorry. Just one of my dreams about the future state of sort of that API server is that, like, hopefully we'll have an API server that we can just hit with a query that will create us a card automatically, right? So it can handle most of that back-end processing without having to, bother app clients with that job. So
yeah, what is old is new again. That's essentially how most of the web was written, and then I feel like in the last 10 years everyone's been doing it differently. But anyways, more technology related stuff. All right. On the community pages side, I did get voting out to production. It works. I tested it, and it does work on mobile too, but just not very fun to use on mobile. So I started working on the mobile version, but it did require some changes to the way that I'm loading static content, because, well, it just wasn't working the way that I had hoped. And the hope is that, honestly, I guess, like, for us really to be mobile first, I probably should have done the mobile first. So that's not really where we're at. But I do think that after I make some of these changes now, the idea will be that the mobile site will be in a state where we can kind of iterate on it and even maybe make it like a PWA, just like the BCard app. So if you're in a community, you can have this kind of like little mobile app yourself. And hopefully you just need to change some styling and some other things. But there's still quite a bit of work that I need to do to make that happen. But the first step in that is making it kind of mobile ready. And after I make it mobile ready for Black Flag Collective, the idea will be to like kind of make it so that it can be used on multiple sites. And that is the technology stack that I'll be using for the B Foundation website, which will as well have like a privy app that you can log into, and hopefully that will plug into our weekly contributor reward. So Richard, right now you're kind of like going in there and grabbing things, and sometimes you don't have people's addresses and that kind of thing. The idea will be like, hey, if we have a B Foundation community page, then can we somehow make that job easier? And right now it's only taking like 15 minutes a week, so it's like, okay, it's not it's not the end of the world right now, but the intent is that hey, maybe we can do this without Discord. We could, anyways, all these other things. It sets a place for us to experiment. But yes, there's still quite a bit of work I need to do on the community pages before we get there. But that's kind of the way that we're working towards it. Does that make sense? I don't know if I explained everything well there.
Well,
That makes sense.
I'm kind of digesting that, but does that like, so that would be the community in the sense that it's so like for the contributors, it's like would be there'd be the community page for the foundation, then we'd have all the people on it and like who's active in it, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Yes,
Okay.
we'd have that, and also like um, a little bit more about membership, and yeah, exactly. So yes, that would be the kind of like place for all of the work that we're doing here right now. It would be the place for
Okay.
that.
And so like and then I'm thinking uh, like the build in public, blah blah blah, contributor stuff. Okay, yeah, I'll yeah, kind of got it. I'm kind of thinking about it. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's like lots of interesting things we can then do with it, right? If we're especially for creating these small widgets that we can be reused. So say for instance, if you're a contributor and let's say you show up to this Discord and you're like, hey, I really want to contribute. We can just be like, okay, go to bfoundation.me, log in, or like sign up for an account. Boom. Now you have an account. Now you have an ETH address. And Richard, you would go to like a dashboard and be able to see their ETH address. Maybe now on that page they signed up and they have an ETH address, they have their email. Maybe on that page, instead of in Discord where it says what did you ship, maybe we have like a little thing on that page where they can just type in what they shipped there. And that is on some open protocol. Instead of having to be in Discord to do that, now you can just push it out to the blockchain or to Farcaster or to some other place where people can see what you're shipping. And then every week you can kind of come in, you see what people shipped, and you can kind of say like, okay, yep, send that to splits, right? So that's kind of just, I mean, I just made that workflow up, but that's kind of like the idea behind it.
yeah, and then I guess because it's going to be on a page, then like if there's another community page, they could like do something similar on their page, like with their community members.
Exactly.
Is that kind of where? Okay.
So like if someone was just like, hey, I like what you guys are doing for B Foundation, be like, hey, you can make one of those websites too. Here's the GitHub, you can do it yourself, or if you want, we can help you.
Good. Right. Got it.
Cool. All right. Any other questions on community pages before we move on? All right. So we have in-app voting and endowment fund. The September vote is complete, finished yesterday. I'll try to send out the funds this week. And I mean, like I said, I'm a little bit busy today, but I'll see if I get a chance to. It's not a very long task to send that out. It's like a half hour. So hopefully I might even have a chance to do it today. Working on our own community blog post on our system. How's this going, Richard?
Well, I got kind of distracted last Friday, but so I haven't done much, but I'm kind of trying to get back into thinking about splits and stuff. So
Yeah. So Richard and I did give Split some feedback on their new method. Their new they have a multi-send now.
Multi-send.
Yeah. So there's a multi-send here that they enabled for us based on some of our feedback. I believe you can now type in, well, there, now we can actually use that, contributor rewards, and you can add recipients, and then you can do a multiple send. I think like, yeah, so you can add recipient here. So like, let's say I'm adding myself and like, let's say 100, and then you can add, I'm not going to do it, but you can add a bunch of people here. So I guess like, it's a step in the right direction, and I don't think it's a big difference from this, right? Like, I mean, it's slightly better UI from this. I think like the real killer app will be like, hey, I mean, right now adding 4 people this way is not terrible, but like, is there another thing that we can do to, like, if we had 20 people, it might get annoying, and maybe I don't want to pre-optimize for that, but for now it's slightly better. Sorry, Richard, does that make sense to you too? What the things I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, it makes sense, and I think that there's like other, like, I guess it's kind of giving them feedback, and there might be other ways that this could be used if you're uh, like, working on the running an on-chain organization.
Yep. Yep. Agreed. So we'll see how we can use this, and this is like an on-chain bank account essentially, or at least that's the intent. So yeah, I mean, I think like if we take everything off-chain, bank accounts and money back guarantees and all these kinds of things that we've been talking about in the last couple of weeks, there's probably some on-chain equivalent, and there's probably some on-chain things that don't have any kind of equivalent in TradFi. So just by kind of using these things in an actual community setting, so like starting with the community and then seeing what kinds of technology we can use to enable that community, I think that will allow us to identify and get a feeling for those things. We're kind of sitting in the middle. We're acting as a bridge. But for us to act as that bridge, we really have to be user focused. And so, yeah, that's what we're aiming to do with ourselves as the first users. So, yeah, that's work that we're going on there. On the task perspective side, pop open this. We added the so there's a general. Oh yeah, so actually this is something that you put in, Richard, that I don't think we've talked about it, but I didn't actually try to reproduce this bug yet. But when you generate a statement for 2025, it defaults to 2024. So this is a bug. I was looking at the statement screen yesterday just because I was like looking at those transactions. If I get a chance, I'll try to take a look at this bug. But yeah, I'm not so sure about this week if I'll get to it or not. Is this a blocker for you right now, Richard?
No. I did what I was going to do, because basically I went through. So, and I think I may have some information that might be helpful for that user issue too, because I like went through my activity and reconciled it, but I did it like not. I was going to try to do it using the statements, but then I did it you basically just copied the screen activity and did it.
Okay. Yeah, I think like, obviously in a perfect sense for us to like be able to put down this product BCard so that we can work on other things as we need to and come back to it. What we really need to do is make sure that like little bugs like this work so that our users can get the
Mhm.
information they need. The monthly statements as well. If we get that automated, then maybe you don't need to see that statement in the app as much, right? And so yeah, these are the kinds of things that I would say that let's say they are preventing us from putting BCard down because we need to put it down so that we can do some other work and then hopefully beef it back up in the future.
Yep.
Cool. All right. Going down into this week, community pages milestone 1. So we do have snapshot voting on the community pages. I'm going to go ahead and mark that as complete. Another thing I want to do is make the community pages mobile ready. So this is the thing I'm working on right now. And then I think the key after that is probably to get the deposit withdrawal widget. And then when we have these kinds of things all working, and the deposit withdrawal widget also shows your current tokens, like what's in your wallet, essentially. And so once we get those kind of 3 things going, I would say that is kind of like a quote unquote complete. What's the word I want to use here? It's like a complete package that we can then like that's kind of like our first release of community pages that we can then use to hopefully make the B Foundation website and everything like that. But also like for someone else's community, we could also give them that as well. Anyways, things to think about. Does that make sense? You think like from a community perspective, if we have voting, deposit, and it's mobile, is that like a potentially useful thing for people?
I mean, mobile, yeah, definitely. Voting and deposits, all of that's very, very helpful. Um, Voting is one of these things that it just seems to kind of come and go. People don't seem to be too interested in voting. I've been leaning towards this concept of upvoting, which is not a new concept by any means. Um, when you are able to just read through a Reddit post and give it a quick upvote, you're not dedicating any additional time to the thought process of voting. You're just going through your normal engagement activity, right? You're reading the comment, whatever it may be, give it an upvote. So why voting gets so challenging over time is because people get this voters fatigue. They can't keep up with everything that's happening. And I understand that's the whole point of a community, to have this place where they can vote. Um, just um, I would definitely stress the importance of making voting something that is like second nature, something that has no additional mental cost.
Yeah, so I completely agree with you in that, like, well, first of all, the one thing I disagree with what you said is like the point of a community is voting. Um I think like
Yeah, maybe I overstepped there. It's not that's not the point of a community, but it is an integral part of blockchain communities for sure.
yeah, it displays ownership in some way, right? And I think like that's what we want to try to get to, though. We want to try to get people to that aha moment. Hey, if you have a vote, if you get more ownership, then you can have a vote. Yeah. Anyways, it's one path to it, and I completely agree that like I think that in a lot of ways voting is broken. I don't know. I don't know if I want to say broken, but like I think that voting works when it's a small thing that doesn't take cognitive load, like you said. And I think that the way that a lot of DAO communities are using it is just like, hey, you want to vote on something? Like lock in. You need to do an hour of reading first. And I think that that's just not going to be scalable.
No, exactly. And everything is scalable to a degree. Like, I always sort of harken back to this idea that I heard from Pablo from Moondao. He was like, yes, we should allow the community to vote whether we send a rocket to space, but not how many engines that rocket has. That's not their job. But at some level, the engineers should get a say. Um, and there are pluses and minuses to different amounts of rockets, and those engineers are going to study those things. So um, it's a sliding scale. But to be really useful for a community, yeah, you want to totally avoid that cognitive load, and make it something that's integral, almost as easy as upvoting, right? You get a proposal out there, it doesn't get you can maybe feedback is an important part, because one of the things that I've noticed with Snapshot is you have to go out to an external site, as we're all probably super familiar with here. The Google documents that were cited in some of the Bankless DAO votes that took place, um, those were all potentially hackable. So it wasn't a smooth process. It wasn't well thought out. Um, so yeah, how do we tackle those issues? The things that
Yeah.
make voting not just lower cognitive load, but also useful in the sense that people can get easy feedback. How much of this stuff actually has to go on chain versus what can we do that's off chain or maybe verified at a later date when it's not doesn't take such a load on a user.
Yeah. And I think like the voting apps that I'm seeing with the most engagement, and again, like one of the things that we're trying to do is engagement, right? Like voting is in some ways like a method for us to do engagement. Some the voting apps that have the most engagement are the ones who have the lowest stakes votes. So it's not like, hey, should we pay these people? It's like, hey, what's your opinion on this? Right? Like it's like a lower kind of stakes thing. And these are the kinds of things what we're just going to have to experiment with in the community itself, right? Like I don't think we're going to know until we try it. So yeah, I agree that we're going to have to iterate on this, but I do think that like lower stakes voting is probably more engaging than higher stakes voting, if that makes sense.
Absolutely.
Cool. All right, so that's where we're going on that. We already talked about these bugs. Black Flag Endowment Fund. I do want to eventually add this Braille on-ramping. I'm going to leave it here for now. Using tokens to increase contribution at volunteer organizations is the article. We already talked about that. Anything else that we're working on that's not in here? One task that I put on my list last week was to catch up with Drost, actually. So I poked him, and he said he has indeed been enjoying the weather. So just in case anyone's wondering, Drost is enjoying his life, and I think that that's the best thing that we can ask for everyone in this group. So I hope that you guys are also enjoying your life as well. All right. What did we ship last week? So Tom debugged the Stage TX API server, crashed on sample TX testing with some DB Prisma issues. This is 2500 BCard. Winverse taped and shared this week's all hands for 2K BCard. I prepped and held this week's all hands for 2K BCard. I got the snapshot voting on community pages working on desktop and production for 3K BCard. I fixed a mobile UI issue on community pages for 250 BCard. I spent time debugging a support request, a Suppopit request support. So that would be 1.5K BCard. Tom was planning and rebuilding BCard backend services. There was a lot more information in the what did you ship, but I just left it at this for now. So that's 6K BCard. Nice. I got Rainbow to show our token in their wallet. Oh, actually, I forgot to mention this. So if you go to Rainbow now, and I don't know if most of you have your wallets in your BCard app or if you have them somewhere else, but I have it in my Rainbow app, and we actually have our token visible now to people in Rainbow. So it says Black Flag Collective, and it is a black flag. So nice. So we have our Rainbow showing our token in the wallet. We got info about inactive accounts from Transcard. I posted Black Vote on social, updated the LinkedIn page, including making new banners. So that was 2K BCard. Tom did some app root upgrades for error handling and retry fallbacks, testing and implementation on the staging server for 3K BCard. And so Tom also did an initial commit for the new admin control panel for BCard controls. Man, this is not letting me click where I want to click. Okay, 1K BCard. And then finally, I held the product weekly. I did some customer support, added some CSS updates for transactions in the BCard app. That's 1.5K BCard. All right. Anything else that's we want to compensate? I see someone else added to the what did you ship. All right, Tom, I'm going to put that into the next week's, okay?
Yep, sounds good. Just didn't want to forget.
Yeah, no, it's good. And better to put it down than to forget. All right. Discussion items. So I had a couple discussion items here. There's been some big moves in the space recently. So did you want to talk about any of these? Coinbase acquires, look, I'm spelling acquires wrong. Acquires. Echo, a private fundraising platform. It also came with they spent 25 million on a podcast, I think for 6 episodes or something. So yeah, I feel like Coinbase has a little bit too much money. But anyways, Stripe announces Tempo, and Dankrad, who is a very well-known Ethereum researcher, leaves the Ethereum Foundation for Stripe. And then finally, the privacy narrative's heating up with Railgun for ETH, and Brian Armstrong saying private transactions are coming to Base. Any of these interest? Any or all of these interest anyone?
Yeah, interesting. And I like this new little section of our meeting. A good segment. I'd add one on there that I just saw. The NHL has struck a deal with Polymarket and Kalshi. I have no idea who Kalshi is, but together they're going to be providing sports betting for the NHL. So that's huge for Polymarket and prediction markets in general.
Yeah, that is huge. Very interesting. DraftKings is also adding prediction markets to their offering too.
Okay. And so how much of that actually works on the blockchain? Like how much of it is is each vote sent to the chain, or is
So
it
from what I understand,
per?
Polymarket is the most on-chain one, and so all of this information is suspect because I never really looked too deeply into it because I'm actually not that interested in prediction markets. But
Mhm.
Kalshi is off-chain, Polymarket is on-chain with some trusted oracles, that is like centralized oracles that they handle. So when you put crypto in, it goes into a contract that reads from an oracle, and that oracle kind of just determines when you get the funds back, if you get it back at all.
Got it. Yeah, I know there has been some manipulation of the poly markets, but
Has it?
those things get worked out over time. Yeah, uh, there were some outcomes which were um, they didn't reflect what the oracle showed. I think it was like something a team won, but it was registered as lost or something. Like it was super weird. But yeah, somebody was able to hack that. Um, and those things obviously, like I said, they're just kinks to be worked out. But yeah, interesting space. I feel like a lot of the betting markets are going to move over to these prediction markets. And who knows, maybe stocks and anything else. You there's another platform that I've used before called Luna, I think it's called, and they allow you to check like trends. It's like a trend market, and that was kind of what they were leaning towards as well, was this prediction markets. So I mean, you can bet on any of that stuff, like what's Kanye gonna say today, like all this stuff can be bet on. And realistically, it's super degenerate, but there
Yeah.
are some good uses for it. So yeah, interesting to see what comes out of it.
Yeah, so from what I understand, Kalshi and DraftKings are both centralized offerings. They're not blockchain based, and also from what I understand, DraftKings looks at it as just like this is just another betting product, right? It's one of many betting products that we offer.
hmm hmm Yeah, as for your other topics there, Coinbase Echo 325 million plus Kobe and Ledger got 25 million for 8 episodes of their up only show.
Yeah,
um, so interesting. I some people are pissed off at that because they feel like it's just wasted money, but whatever. Um, and the
I think it's a marketing
privacy,
spend, right? It's more like a
yeah,
marketing.
yeah,
I think so too.
absolutely.
If you look at their blog, I mean, so they put it in context of like, oh, here's all of the things, like here's the crypto stack. So hey, when you create a company, you use Liquify and you manage investors that way, and then so like basically you create a token using Liquify, you start getting private investors and dispersing to them using Echo. Then you have a public token sale using Sonar, and then you get on a centralized exchange listing with Coinbase, and then how to actually use that token is this. So this is the context that they're putting in. Is Echo is kind of like this missing piece, but I mean honestly, I suspect that this was kind of like after the fact. They kind of decided like this is how it's going to look.
Mm, yeah. So essentially, it's a launch pad for orgs.
Yeah. So it's
The new
not
the new IPO structure.
exactly. It's just like, hey, what about on? And it's a bet, right? Like it's a bet that um, with the new um, like stablecoin legislation and crypto legislation passing in the United States, that eventually it's going to get to the point where your tokenized assets are going to be like kind of recognized legally as ownership potentially. And so that's the bet with Echo. We'll see.
hmm Yeah, privacy heating up definitely. I learned quite a bit about privacy in sort of the latter days of Bankless DAO. I did a privacy series with a few different organizations. So that's interesting to see. People are excited about that again. Zcash is always the go-to token for that, but there's a lot of different solutions out there. Check out NIM if you want a private VPN, NYM. Check out Aleph0 if you want to see what people are doing on like with private transactions, obfuscated transaction contents. And there's
That one?
IDOS.
What was the obfuscated transaction?
Aleph0, ALEPH 0.
Cool.
IDOS is an interesting one. That's Fractal ID plus Near and Aleph0. They've created this consortium for storing credentials essentially without showing the contents of those credentials. So you could, for example, upload your passport and it is stored at a centralized place, not on the chain. None of your actual data is stored on the chain, but it's stored through a decentralized host that uses a data verifier. And then when you need to KYC for a platform, they basically get a credential that says, yes, this user is 18, or yes, this user is outside the United States or inside the United States, whatever that may be. But they don't actually see your name. They don't see any content you don't give them, essentially. So it's a nice way of getting around giving away your privacy data or your personal data. However, shortly after their launch, there was a big hack, and they did experience some IDOS did experience some issues. But again, early days, so things that they need to iron out. But yeah, it could be the future of KYC.
Yep. I actually think that the Stripe news is the biggest interesting thing to me. So they announced Tempo, which is an EVM compatible L1. So it's going to be, I think, Ethereum, but like centralized sequencers. And they have Dankred moving over to Stripe to basically help with this. I mean, so the chain, as far as I can tell, already exists. And they already have some huge partners for it, if I'm not mistaken. They have, let's see, who do they have here? Who's already on it? Here we go. Tempo started with Stripe and Paradigm, with design from Anthropic, Coupgang, Deutsche Bank, DoorDash, Leadbank, Mercury, Nubank, OpenAI, Revolut, Shopify, Standard Chartered, Visa, and more. And so basically, I think that like those are their in a lot of ways, those are their customers. Like for Mercury, if they are offering a product to send money to and from Deutsche Bank, for instance, they could spend the money to do like a wire transfer or something like that, or it could be a wire like transfer, and they can have the majority of the fees while using this kind of blockchain. So Deutsche Bank and Tempo basically, sorry, Deutsche Bank and Mercury could do like an exchange using a Tempo blockchain instead of like an Ethereum blockchain, which is essentially an Ethereum blockchain. And it's really interesting, and also very interesting that the Ethereum Foundation does not really pay its researchers that well, which is kind of insane to me.
Sorry, what did you say is insane to you?
So basically, it was revealed when Dankred was leaving. Another Ethereum researcher kind of stepped up and said, like, yeah, well, people aren't paid well.
Oh, yes.
And he was saying,
that seems like a bit of a fiasco.
He was saying that he basically got like just over $100,000 a year for creating, for creating essentially billions of dollars of value, right? Like this group of people is essentially like their work is securing billions and probably like close to trillions of dollars of value almost, right? And so you would think that the Ethereum Foundation would pay them more. Like, I mean, I someone in this article that I posted here, they say like, oh, Ethereum Foundation researchers make 140K and like a normal salary at Coinbase is at 150K. But actually, like that's Coinbase's base pay without any equity. With equity, Coinbase's pay is like usually around like 250 US. $250,000, right? And so it's just kind of like
Mhm.
probably Ethereum Foundation is paying most of its researchers in ETH, and the price of ETH hasn't really done that well in the last couple of years. And so, other than Vitalik, most of those researchers apparently don't have a huge stack. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting. There's lots of different ways for people to make money in crypto. Some people find it easy, and some people just, I guess, do it for the love rather than the money, and then might turn around and go, "Why did I do that?" I think a lot of us here experience that. You put your heart and soul into something, um, and then it can be kind of deflating when you look back and see how much other people earned while you were kind of just taking part. But he made huge change to EF, and he made money in other ways, no doubt. Um,
Well, even
yeah,
when these people were trying to make money in other ways, like being advisors for things like Hyperliquid and these other kinds of things,
mhm.
Eigenlayer, basically there was a huge backlash from the public that's like, hey, this is a conflict of interest. So it's just like on one hand, they're not making that much money. On the other hand, like anything they do is perceived as a conflict of interest. And I think that idea, and actually, sorry, I have to leave pretty shortly. I have another meeting at 10 that I have a hard stop that I have to leave a little bit early for. But like this idea that like if you love what you do, sorry, my fire alarm went off too. Wow, perfect storm. If you love what you do, you shouldn't be paid as much. I feel like people use that as well for people like teachers and doctors and stuff like that. Like, oh, because you're going to do this regardless, we can pay you less money. It's kind of like, I don't know. There's something about that that just doesn't work in my mind.
Absolutely. Yes. Working for exposure.
Yeah,
Farming for stream.
exactly.
Okay. Well, better wrap this up then if you gotta go.
Yeah, and I also am just like dealing with a fire alarm over here right now. So I will just say
We
thank
can't
you.
actually hear it, so
You can't hear it? Oh, great. Noise canceling technology works. But yeah, thank you to everyone for being here. I appreciate you all, and I think that we're making some real progress, and I really want to be able to use it for our community, not just Black Flag Collective. And so stay tuned because I think we're getting there. We're getting to a point where we actually have a page that we'll be able to use for this community. You'll be able to use it on your phone, and it'll be easy to vote on votes. So thanks everyone for being here, and I appreciate you all.
Thank you, Links. Thanks, everybody. Maybe one day
Thanks.
we'll be
Bye.
paid like professional athletes.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
we know we carry the team, right? So
Yeah.
you got a hand.
even WNBA
Yes.
wages would suffice.
Yeah.
See
All right.
y'all.
See you later, everyone. Bye.
Great one.